All right, so this is what episode 2 of our official podcast, Unfiltered, a racing fans only podcast. I'm Alan. That's Blake on the other side
Hello.
there. And so we're going to talk about this week our silly season thoughts because there's been quite a bit from the middle of last year all the way through literally the moves that are happening up through Thanksgiving break to talk about, whether that's crew chiefs and spotters or drivers. So we will go ahead and start from there. So you want to start with the big name drivers and work our way through, bud, or you want to work uh, by team? How would you like to break this down?
We can do team, I guess. Teamwork.
Okay, so we'll go through the Cup teams first. So HMS, they're getting no changes. So our first big team that's getting a change would be JGR. We're getting Briscoe over there, along with some crew chief shakeups. So what do we think is going to happen with Briscoe over there in the 19?
I'm probably in the minority here, but I believe that Briscoe is going to shine in the 19 car. And I think that because the 19 car has been fast for, since Truex has been in it. And it showed speed. They haven't been able to put it together the last 2 years, but it's been showing speed week in, week out. Briscoe in a defunct SHR team was the last half of the year was pretty much in it. I mean, he didn't win one race and he didn't do much after that, but he did. I mean, he was top 15 of them to death. So if he was doing that in a defunct SHR team, I believe a team that with full resources, they're not quitting anytime soon type of thing. I believe he's going to have a 4 win season, 3 to 4 win season. I really do.
I think I agree with you overall. I'm expecting him to come out of the maybe not come out of the gate strong, but I would say within the first handful of races, we'll say by the time we get to what is usually like our mid-spring, so Martinsville, I think they'll have their stuff figured out because, like you said, the 19 car has been fast, whether it was Edwards that was in it or then Truex and so forth, and then
Yeah,
James Small's been
the
able to
only
put,
driver that didn't have any speed in it really was Suarez, but
yeah,
he was kind of thrown in there and
yeah, I don't even think that was a good testament to Suarez.
yeah,
We've seen Suarez drive well in the 99, so we know he's
yeah.
capable of winning and performing in Cup. Um, what I'm with that situation, what really got my attention, besides the fact that not Priest, that Briscoe was able to win the Southern 500 with a team that is literally closing its doors. Everybody's got a million things on their mind, trying to find jobs, and they were able to put together a solid run, and he was able to win, and definitely at a deficit, whether that's the car performance, whatever,
Yeah.
is that James Small made the remarks a couple weeks ago after, the championship banquet leading into Thanksgiving that he was excited because he's finally going to have a driver he can get a hold of every day, as opposed to, Martin being absent. And I think, you know, like Kevin Harvick said when he stepped out of the car, the level of commitment necessary from a driver today to succeed, the sim time, the being present in the shop, working with the team on the car, it's not like it was, pre this car or even the one before that where you could come in for one or two things and leave and you don't really have to do anything until you show up to the track. That's not the way the sport is today. So I think him being present all the time and the way he's engaged, and his success, I think that's going to lead to good things for the 19 car.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I listened, I think it was the last episode of Dale Jr. Download after Phoenix, where Junior said, I sent him a text and he doesn't respond,
Yep.
and if you don't answer his phone, you might go a month without talking to him and you see him in the supermarket and everything's fine. That's,
Yep.
so if he's like that with Junior, I'd wouldn't I'd love to know how it was with team. I'm sure the team was going nuts trying to
Yeah,
figure setups out.
yeah, from a team perspective, not just the crew chief, but I think the guys working on the cars are going to have a different mentality because now they've got a guy who is 100% committed Monday to Sunday
Yep.
instead of a guy who's committed, a couple hours throughout the week, and then on Sunday expects everything to go well, but is not really invested in the process leading up to it. Sometimes doesn't
He
competition meetings per, what Hamlin said, what James Small has said, what he's admitted to, um,
Truex may have just retired, but he's been retired for 2 years in my eyes.
exactly. I agree. I think he's been mentally checked out for a while.
Yep.
Um, and so I think that's going to lead to good things for the 19 team. Now,
Yep.
how that's going to work with the rest of the restructuring. I think overall they should even have better cars because you're taking. I think that'll be one of the things we talk about next is to the detriment I think of Hamlin pulling Gabe Hart off and giving him Gale, who was the crew chief for Gibbs.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's going to be bad for Hamlin in the weekly run in terms of because now he's got to rebuild that relationship. But I think it'll be good for JGR's cars overall because even though you know everybody in the media was saying, okay, we think Bell's going to be a favorite, we think Hamlin's going to be a favorite. If you go back, we talked about it in our earlier lead up podcast to this or discussions. Toyota didn't win with any of their big drivers the rest of the year after
Uh,
the Olympic break and the fall break, or after, yeah, from the Brickyard on. The only people that won were uh, Reddick. So
Yep.
no JGR cars won from that point on. That's a big surprise. That so there were clearly more problems under the surface than what everybody was really taking a step back and looking at.
And
So
Reddick's was a lucky break.
yeah, and Reddick,
If you really look at it, his was a lucky break. So if you take that one out, you're talking the entire second half of the season, no wins for Toyota.
yeah, I mean, I did the stats. I went through and I looked at it from the break on. Ford won 13 races, including the All Star
Yeah,
and the championship, to Chevy's 8 and to Toyota's 4. And in
what
total, yeah. So, I mean, Toyota, I don't know what happened. I don't know if they fell backwards or if everybody just took a step forward because prior to the Olympic break, Toyota, it was basically JGR versus HMS, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And after the Olympic break, Ford found what they were looking for. RCR, to some extent, found what came out of the gate firing back strong. They had a lot of opportunities and missed opportunities. So, I mean, it's really surprising. So we'll see if these crew chief shuffles for JGR yield any fruit or not. Uh,
I I'm kind of I'm kind of doubtful for the 54. I
yeah.
don't understand the hire. I mean, you're going to take a guy that's never crew chief before in any
Who'd they
series.
get? I don't know that one.
I think his name's something Allen. I just know he was with Cup. He was in Cup, not as a crew chief or anything, but he moved down as Xfinity as a like a car chief or some sort of engineer.
Okay.
And he came. Now he's a crew chief. So I mean, maybe they see something in him. Maybe it will work, but I think that's going to be a long term, see how it goes thing.
Yeah.
I don't think the Chris Gale will hurt Denny as much as most think because I think the thing that will hurt Denny is his lawsuit if it doesn't get finished up.
I agree. I think that's
Uh,
that's you know I think that definitely led to what to JGR restructuring the stuff. I think if they had run better and he had been still focused, like 100% on the ball, maybe they don't pull his crew chief, but because he's got stuff going in a million directions, well, let's do what's best for the company because
yeah,
you're kind of wasting this resource
I
almost.
do think Gabe Hart being the competition director will help the team overall,
Yeah,
and that's one of the reasons I think the original question, how will Chase Briscoe do in the 19, that that will help him because Gabe Hart is the real deal. He's probably top four crew chief in the entire series.
yeah, yep.
So yeah,
I'm not sure. So even though it's not driver related, with Chris Gale going to Denny, Denny's goal, I'm at this point, I think Denny's not going to win a championship.
no,
Changing crew chiefs again, I think that pretty much that ship is 100% permanently sailed. If he does, it'll be truly surprising. But I'm more concerned for Denny in this respect that he wants to get to 60 wins, and he's six short of that right now. And as hard as they are to come by, now he's got to start this relationship all over again. And the dynamics of driver crew chief with Gale, that even though Chris Gale is a good crew chief, has won a ton of races in Xfinity and other stuff, you've got that relationship, that chemistry has to be built up, that trust to be able to put a successful car on track and for the to be able to interpret the driver's feedback. I'm not going to say Denny won't win again before he retires, but I don't know that he gets to 60. He needs six more wins, and six wins is hard to come by.
Well, one of the things that's hurt him as well as this new car, he has not won a plate race since going into this new car. He was getting one every,
Yeah.
so
Yep.
often. We've went with 22, 20, we've went 3 years with this car, and he's not even sniffed a plate win. So
Nope.
that hurts him.
Yep.
And beyond that, like what you said, you now got to learn a new crew chief. But maybe it's lightning in a bottle. We'll just have to figure it out.
So our next big team, if you think of them as a four-car team, is the Penske Wood Brothers, alliance.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think Barry's going to do over there in the 21? You think he's going to do better
Well,
than
all he
Burton?
can do is go up, right?
Right. Well, I would say that, except for Burton did manage to win a plate race.
He
So
did.
now Barry's actually got a little bit mark higher than what Matt DiBenedetto even had when he was there. And DiBenedetto did good in the 21 car.
Yeah, he almost won in a race, which that was
So
in '95,
I
wasn't
think
it?
Barry's going to have, a
Yeah,
high bar to shoot for to succeed right out of the gate, because Harrison did manage to get the Wood Brothers number 100, whether everybody likes it or not, whatever. Either way, he was up there enough and he got it done. So,
yeah. So
and
I I think I think he finishes he barely misses the playoffs.
yeah,
That's what I think will happen. I think he'll barely miss the playoffs. Um, I don't think that team is just going to go from a 35th overall team to top 16, but I do think possible to be a top 20 team, uh, unless the Ford. I mean, at the last of the year, Harrison wasn't really finishing that great. I did think he did get like a 12th at a mile and a half, but I believe he was qualifying top 10 every other week. So they
yeah.
got qualifying down. And
Well,
so,
why I think he'll do well season wide overall, I'm not so sure about out of the gate, but I mean, they are partnered with Penske, who has won the last three next gen championships and took
all three
uh,
next year.
yeah, all three championships with this platform, and took a brand new car, and by the second half of the season, of the regular season, was able to take Ford as a whole was able to take that platform and win the majority of races in the championship, and just came up short on the manufacturer's title. So I do think, because they're going to be, unlike SHR, who was off on their island, didn't have any Ford support, being with the Wood Brothers, they've got that money injection from Harrison making the playoffs this year, and that charter payout should help them, get more resources. And then they've got the tie-in with Penske, and Penske's won the last three championships. I think, he's going to have.
And Penske, I'm pretty sure Penske builds their cars. So,
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, they do. So I think he's going to have a much better opportunity this go round.
but I don't believe they have a crew chief lined up yet, correct?
No, I think everybody thought it was going to be Rodney, but well, no, I thought they did say who he was going to get, but I don't remember who it was.
Yeah, I don't think his
Rodney
name.
tried to work it out where you could go with him, and they just, all the deals they tried to work where they could stay together didn't work out. So,
Yeah.
all right. So let's see. That brings us to RFK. They're the next big team with a lot of movement. So
Yeah, a lot of movement.
they've got new crew chiefs for Brad, and now you've got a new driver, sponsor, crew chief, and built like a whole new. They've been tearing up the shop and rebuilding it for this third car, so it's a major investment. It's not like we just
Yeah.
are building another car. They are
Kroger has
restructuring the entire
thrown
shop.
all the money at him.
Yep,
Kroger is in for the long haul, it sounds like.
yep. So that's, to me, that's interesting, because at the time I thought Brad and them weren't picked. He had said that, the numbers thrown out for those Haas charters were too rich for their blood. Well, Trackhouse picked up one. FRM picked up one, 2311 picked up one. Where's RFK's third charter coming from?
It's coming from who's the team that's in with them? The Rick Ware.
Is that where it's
The
coming? Oh, so
fit
they're leasing
the
it? Okay.
51 charter is what they're going to be using. It's like I'm pretty sure it's leased.
Okay.
They're leasing the 51 charter. We just haven't heard of a lease in a couple of years, so that's why it's kind of off the
Okay.
wall. But they're using the 51 charter.
Okay.
That's in turn why I know it was going to be later, but kind of can do it now. That's why Corey LaJoy is kind of on hinge
Almost.
because
Yeah.
this new 60 car is taking the 51 charter. I
Yep.
mean, Rick Ware's probably still going to run two cars, but it's probably going to be by your seat. We're
Mhm.
probably going to see five or six drivers in that car throughout the year instead of just one,
Okay.
like we did this past year with Justin Haley.
Yep. I didn't think
And,
about that in the equation, that
yeah,
how that impacted Corey. I wasn't sure if he would get the job anyway because he was being shown the door at Spire, which we'll get to, and all those moves, but definitely didn't think about the fact that, like, where I was trying to figure out, like, okay, we knew they were talking about it, but I was thinking, okay, well, maybe they're getting a third charter because one of the ones for 2311 or FRM, because of all the charter negotiations, the lawsuits, and all that thing, maybe they didn't end up picking up a third one. But so
I
instead,
do believe Corey would probably be in the car some if he chose to with Schluter Systems. I believe he's got Celsius still, with the sponsorship he has, but I don't see him being able to do the entire season with the sponsorship he kept from Spire. I just don't see it,
yeah,
especially with Celsius going with Tony Bridinger to Truck Series. I just don't.
yeah. If we get time, we'll get to that one at the end because
Yeah,
I'm actually excited for that.
yeah.
All right,
But as far as
yes,
Priest,
Priest. Yeah, what do we think
we
he'll
almost forgot
do?
about that.
He's a
I,
gritty, short track guy. When he was in JGR equipment, when he bet on himself, he won. He's definitely shown flashes of success while he's been at
and he had like
SHR.
three straight top 10 finishes near the end of the year.
Yep.
I believe, if I remember right. So like it's maybe he's finally hitting on something. Who knows if that was his crew chief at SHR or if that was him or both or whatever. But uh, I don't really see him doing much. But like I said, he finished top 10. I believe it was three races in a row near
Yep.
the end of the year. So we'll see on that one. But I don't personally think that he will do too much in the 60. But there is the fact that it's RFK. They both won last year. Will a third car slow them down or speed them up?
Yeah, that's the part I'm curious about. I mean, in terms of going to a team that's on the upswing, at least you're going to one that's on the upswing and not the downswing.
Yeah.
Like he left when he came
I,
to SHR. SHR was no longer the SHR of Kevin Harvick
yeah.
wins and
Not.
speed like 2014, 15, 16, 17. They were dialing everything back little by little by little. You could see Tony's lack of involvement and in turn how that impacted the thing. Whereas Brad came in there and within, what are we, year three?
Yeah.
So in that short period of time, took RFK from a D tier team where they used to be an A tier team, where they at one point in time they put five cars into the playoffs.
Yep.
They were the reason why NASCAR
There were
came up
10
with Tony.
cars and five of them was Roush.
Yep. And so now they're back to, I'm not going to say they're an A team yet, but they're definitely a
They're a
B,
B
a high
plus.
B. You
Yep.
know, Chris Buescher, capable of winning, proven
It,
it at multiple types of tracks. Brad is a known quantity. And now that he's got the team operating well, you're seeing his performance increase. So I agree with you. I think when it comes to Priest, I have a hard time justifying how he's going to do based off where he's leaving to come from there. But the fact that he's staying in the same platform, a Ford platform, I think that will be good for him. You're getting into a more consistent team in terms of day-to-day operations. It's what the future is. RFK is not going out of business anytime soon. The injection of additional sponsorship money, the third charter, all that stuff should help them. So I'm hoping that he will do well. But I mean, basically, if he doesn't do well, it's going to have to be him. because
Yeah,
we've proven, Brad's taken cars that couldn't win, and Chris is taking cars that couldn't win, and they've put them into the playoffs, and they've won races, and they've won big races. They've won the duels, they've won at Bristol in the night race, they've won, you know, they won the Southern 500 or the yeah,
they
they
won the spring race. They
yeah
won the
the
spring
spring
race.
Darlington. So they've definitely got the speed to get it done. Brad won,
And
what was it, the Coke 600?
he won the spring Darlington race.
Which one was the one he won with the Castrol scheme?
That
Was it
was
spring
Darlington,
Darlington?
the throwback.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so yeah, so he won
That's
that.
the only
That's
win he has in the six. He's only won once in the six,
Yep,
where the 17's won four times, I believe,
yep.
since he's
And
become owner.
he's
And what I
won
was going to
short
say with
tracks,
the
big tracks, Michigan,
yeah,
Richmond. He's won at all platform
late
types.
late tracks. Yep.
Road trip,
And
road course.
what I was going to say about the three car team, I heard Tyler, Justin Marks on Sirius XM yesterday, I believe.
Mhm.
He said that a three car team is actually probably the best thing you can do these days. Four cars actually takes your resources too much, and three cars is probably the best thing for everybody. So
Yeah, from a
possible, like,
resource and
yeah,
revenue and marketing and yep. All right, now we'll go to the what I'd say is the really big one, Spire. Spire basically was like Pac-Man this year. They got drivers, they've got crew chiefs, they got engineers. They
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 got them all.
they got them all. They got rid of Corey, which
Corey and Zane.
yep, I can see why that happened. You've got what the hell is his damn name? Hocevar, wreck a car. Hocevar,
Yep.
he's so damn fast he can't not wreck the car.
Yep.
Um, if you can get him to be a little more patient, and then you give him people in the back half of the building running, helping build the cars and sharing that knowledge, like a Rodney Childers and a Matt McCall who just came from RFK, who turned RFK around.
Retired.
Yep, he retired to a higher paying job. Uh, Spire has been, they talked about it on DBC and some of those shows. Like Spire's been throwing money around this year. I mean, they spent $40 million to buy a charter last year, leading into the agreement to kind of plus up. So they're the one I think I'm going to be watching the most in silly season because they've made all these investments, acquired a lot of top talent for the back end of the facility in terms of engineers and shock specialists and crew chiefs and spotters. Like they've hired all these personnel, not just drivers. And when you look at the list of people they've been going around and getting, and Rodney said he got a lot of his engineering people already over there and they love it. Um, Once the SHR news was announced, like people have slowly been trickling over there. I'm expecting like some really, I not that I'm not expecting great things out of Justin Haley, but I think if anything, he should definitely benefit. We're going to see what he's really capable of because you're getting some really, really good people building your cars now. You're basically you're going to go from being a C tier team where your goal was to competing to be, all right, we're 30th to 26th. Now we're going from 26th to 16th, because not this year, but last year, Corey was in contention early on in the season to qualify
Yep.
for the playoffs. So we know
Yeah,
they
he was around
do.
14th for
Yep.
about 8 weeks, and then he just fell like a
And they
rock.
fell off a cliff. So I can see a scenario where if all the pieces are in the right places, where Spire, goes from being a C tier team to a low B plus team this year. And depending on how they move those pieces around, the long term investment they've made, it takes a long way to go from, where they're at today to a Rick Hendrick level with Chevy, but they're making those kind of investments. So it would not surprise me
And
if,
according to Brad Kay, who knows how much he knows about this, but he said
yeah,
Brad Kay, or Hendrick has bigger pockets. Well, what does Hendrick have to do with Spire picking up uh, Justin Haley? And why is Justin Haley so? What is everybody seeing in Justin Haley? I mean, RFK thought they had something, and now he left after a year. Colleague thought they had something. He left after 2 years. I don't really like. understand what everybody's seeing in him because he hasn't. I mean, yeah, he's consistent. He doesn't wreck his cars, but he's consistently 20th.
Right.
You know, like,
He's not, where he had all this time in Xfinity and he ran well in the college stuff when college was at the top.
and all he won was plate races.
Right. Now you take that and let's contrast that with his teammates. Okay. So he's got, we'll start with the first one, Hocevar. Hocevar may be reckless, but that boy is fast.
Yep.
He
He
has
won
taken
a
those
truck
cars before they
in
got all
different
the
tracks.
good people and put them in the top 10 consistently.
Yep.
And the only reason why he hasn't finished better in a lot of them is because of mistakes he made overdriving the car, being too impatient.
Yep.
So if you can get him,
Once he learns that patience, he's going to be a rock star.
yeah, I can see him of the people they've got. He's the driver I'm watching, and I'm watching to see how Rodney and Matt McCall and these other guys they've brought over from SHR and through the 4 team that made that car so fast for Harvick, how that transfer of knowledge, especially since it's a common platform, helps that team grow, you know, fairly quickly.
I with that, I personally don't understand the signing of McDowell. He's
Yeah.
getting up there in age. Like, what am I not seeing here? Yeah, he was with Front Row for all those years. Yes, he did win 2 races, but I mean, I don't see that sign. I don't understand the signing. You're trying to grow. You're trying to become a super team, and you sign Michael McDowell, Justin Haley. I don't understand it one bit. I
I
the thing with
understand the
Kendrick
McDowell
with
if you're
Justin
trying to
Haley,
mentor a young guy in Hocevar, getting him a more seasoned veteran, but I I don't know that I would have had two young drivers, in Haley and Hocevar. I think you've got what you need for a young and fast. I don't think you need to basically reset your whole lineup. And the fact that they essentially changed out their entire lineup this year, you got Hocevar last year, and then this year you got two more new drivers. So you're basically starting fresh.
yep,
Uh, and now you're changing out all the crew chiefs and the pieces. McDriver's bringing his own crew chief, which has led to his success. So that's good in that way, I guess. I don't know that I would have if I was McDowell. I don't know that I would have left FRM though. The team is finally in a position where you've qualified for the playoffs, you've won the Daytona 500, and you've won races, and you contend for wins
well,
regularly. Contend for,
FRM is notorious for 1 year deals, and I think he was tired of the 1 year deal concept.
and I can understand. I mean, I'm sure it's probably more
With
consistency
that, they
and money
signed
than
Brayton
anything.
to a multi-year deal.
But I don't know that I would have taken a step backwards building wise for consistency if I'm worked my entire career to win. I'm finally winning. I'm finally in the discussion. I'm finally in the playoff discussion. Not as a like, well, I might luck my way into a win. I am legitimately a threat to win at all these road courses, these plate tracks,
Yep.
these short tracks, and you're gonna take yourself off the board. Like because you don't, you've seen the Spire cars can be fast with Hocevar, but you haven't seen that be consistent yet. So
I wonder if
game on it.
all this movement, Bridgestone is going to take an even bigger. Is it Bridgestone? Was it Bridgestone that bought in with them?
Hmm?
The tire company. It's not Bridgestone. There's a tire company that bought in with them. Can't think of the name of them.
Oh, you're talking about Gamebridge.
Gamebridge.
Yeah,
Gamebridge bought in with them. I wonder if they're going to have an even bigger sponsorship role now with all this movement
yeah.
to up the ante to here's all this money because they're the reason they were able to buy the $40
Oh
million
yeah,
sponsor
yeah. They made a
budget.
major investment. When they helped them buy the charter. Like there was a discussion the other day in one of the podcasts that they didn't talk about. It we'll get to it in 2311 that I didn't know about. I don't know if you knew about it. So, um, but yeah, well, we could be done with Spire for now. Yeah.
Well, what do you think Haley and McDowell do towards? Do you think either of them will make the playoffs?
I think McDowell will contend for it because he's not having to relearn crew chief chemistry. He's got to learn a new car going from Ford to Chevy.
That
But
won't be too hard. They're all the same.
they've got an alliance with HMS, so I'm not too worried about that from that side. And Chevys overall have still been the fastest car week to week.
Well, one Chevy has.
Yeah. Um,
Sorry, I had to.
now yeah, one Chevy, but Chevy as a platform as a whole, for
Yeah,
the most part, has been the most consistent car. So I think McDowell should do well. Haley, I just feel like is an unknown quantity, especially paired with Rodney. I think Rodney's
yeah.
obviously very smart. He's going to be renewed in energy, wanting to prove he still got it. But at the same time,
If they haven't done anything by the Coke 600, I think
yeah, I think if they haven't started to show
then
flashes, I agree. I think but it's not going to be. I have a hard time thinking it's Rodney, just because I mean, as fast as he helped Mark Martin contend. He helped Vickers win when Vickers was in and out of the seat dealing with his illness. Harvick and him showed up in 2014. They were the fastest freaking thing on
he
the
was
planet.
fast with Truex in the 56.
Yep, exactly. So he knows how to build fast race cars. So I
Yep.
feel like if they don't succeed, it's going to be on Haley, not on Harvick, on Childers.
So 2311 or Trackhouse next.
So let's do 2311 because that
Okay.
was what I was getting ready to touch on. So their new edition, Riley Herbst, which just got released, something I heard. I don't know if you heard this or not, but apparently Herbst family owns the charter that 2311 is going to be using. That's why he has a seat.
What?
They bought the charter, not Michael
No
Jordan
way.
and Denny Hamlin. They bought the charter. And so they're basically owning the charter and leasing it to
I
2311.
know he has an allegiance with Monster. Is his family with Monster?
Yeah. So
Or,
so the way it was explained on which one was it? It was on Parker Kligerman and them. They were talking about it.
okay.
That this happens in the background. It's happened once or twice with charters, but it's not really talked about like in the public limelight. So apparently, the Herbst family owns the 2311 charter or the charter that 2311 is going to run. Basically, it's the Herbst charter. If you go look at the owner
Oh
stuff,
my gosh.
it's going to be the Herbst charter.
That's crazy.
It's for their son, and basically, if they're going to shop it, they shopped it around. 2311 is going to manage it or run it in house for them. So it's kind of like how how the teams with the money or the kids with the money show up and say, okay,
Yeah.
daddy's business is going to pay for this, and you rent the car. In this case, I've got the charter. The charter, you run it for me, and I will give you a percentage of the earnings. So you're going to field the cars. You're going to field this. If let's say the charter brings in, let's say $10 million for the year, I will give you 30% of that revenue. The other 70 goes to us, or 50-50, or whatever the split agreement is for 2311 to run it under their banner. But it's essentially we're putting a 2311 stamp on it, but under the hood, it's really Riley Herbst.
So so what you're telling me is if this lawsuit falls through and they can't do anything, the Herbst group, we'll call it,
Mm-hmm.
they can go to Trackhouse or any
Anybody
other
who's got two
teams
cars
that
only or
have.
one car, yeah, they could go to JTG or now Hayek Racing and say, would you like to run our charter under your banner? And we will give you X amount of the income revenue from Monster, etc., that gets to put on the car.
You know what I would do if I was them if this happens?
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to go for JTG. You don't want a
No,
JTG
I'm just
car.
saying, like as an
No, I
alternative,
know.
like
But what team would who would you I want to see if we get the same answer. Which team do you go to go, hey, you want a third charter?
who has two right now that's not already slated
Or
to go to
one.
three?
Or one.
Well, Trackhouse already has two, and they're going to three
Yeah, we haven't got to them yet.
with SVG. You've got 2311's already going there. I'm trying to think of who else.
20. We got Wood Brothers.
Well, that would make them a two-car team. So
Yeah,
that's one
right there
option.
with Penske. That's where
Yep.
I was getting to.
Honestly, like
You got
I don't know if
You got
the
RCR.
only reason why I wouldn't go to Wood Brothers is because we've seen the Wood Brothers say they don't have the resources to they for the longest time they didn't have the resources to run full time. So I don't know if I brought them
No,
another
I'm only saying
charter.
Wood Brothers because of the Penske Alliance.
I agree.
But
Now
if it's not that,
that's honestly that's where I would go. I would go to RCR and say I want you to run give me the 21, for example. We'll run it under the 21 banner for this year, and I'll bring Monster. And I think that would be, Riley Herbst is vicious, just like Kyle Busch when he was like, "I'm gonna wreck you. Either give me the bottom, or I'm gonna take you out." Justin Haley is like, I don't care if you run for the championship. I will wreck your ass for this
Yeah.
win. So,
Yeah.
um,
Algar was like, here, have this win. I'm going to take
but
my championship.
when I was listening to the various podcasts out there, and they brought that up, I was like, oh, and that was right before Thanksgiving. Like, I got to make a note about that to talk to
Yeah,
Blake.
you
Like, I don't
you
know if you
kept
heard
that
this or
one.
not, but
You kept that one for the podcast. Didn't tell me.
so they apparently this has happened before where some of the I guess it was Levine Family Racing when they were still around. That's what they were doing. They were shopping their. They had the charter, and it went from. That's why you had all the different teams that same driver and all that stuff went to, because it was basically the driver was paired to the charter. So now the driver has something that's an investment they can shop around with. It's not just me and my
That's pretty
sponsor. I
slick.
actually have something that you need. You can't field a team on the grid without a charter. I own the charter, and I tell you who the driver is going to be. I'm going to give you a charter to run under your hood, under the hood of your business, and I want this driver. It's your responsibility to go out and get sponsorship for it, and I'll let you keep X percentage, and we'll split the earnings. So it's definitely a different change in the business model.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But if you think about when you look at the investors that are coming into the thing, Gamebridge, you've got, the Fenway Group's been around a long time, but some of these others that are coming in, and NASCAR specifically put charter language in the charter agreement that we've heard about, because they didn't want, and basically investment groups buying up the race teams, and basically become investment racing, kind of like Formula One, where, you've got these billion-dollar entities. So I think that's interesting, because if that stays that way, that will definitely change the landscape of in the future, like the next set that come available, depending on how the new charter agreement goes and plays out and everything. I definitely could see if you have family money, like the Herbst family or Justin, not well, I mean Justin Marks, but um, Ross Chastain's family, watermelon farmers, and you were to invest in a charter, take your pool of, because on the junior podcast, Chastain talked about how all those farmers, even though they all compete against each other in the farm industry, they all got together to sponsor him because it was helping all watermelon farmers. But if all those farms got together, and farmers are millionaires, people don't think about it.
Yeah.
All these
Well,
farmers
yeah, I agree.
pooled their money and bought a charter, the money they could get back to fund their agriculture and then keep him in the seat. Like, there's some very interesting stuff that could happen with that. So we got about 2 minutes left to hit our, what I'd say is probably like the final big one. I'm not expecting much in the way of Colleague, because they're restarting so much. They've been so inconsistent up and down. But
You wanna just do a reset and then get the. I think there's like three left or
yeah,
four.
let's call this one, and then we will part two. We'll get to the final.
All right.
I'll hit you back up in just a minute.
All right.